creating new stroke styles in InDesign. So our stroke panel in InDesign offers a number of stroke styles that we can apply to objects, but we can also create and customize our own stroke style. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my stroke panel, and remember, if you don't see it over in the panel dock, go under Window and locate it there. F10 is also the quick key that InDesign has designated for this panel. So I'm going to go ahead and take this panel and actually pull it off so that I remove it from the dock and it's free floating here to allow me to do some work with it. So we have three types of stroke styles. Those three we see when we create a new stroke. So they are dashed, dotted, and striped. So while I'm here in the stroke panel, if I look at my types here, you can see that there are a variety of predefined different types of strokes that come with InDesign. There are many more that you can get out actually for free. If you load outside strokes, you're going to look for a file type that's a .inst. But we can create our own also. So let's go ahead and do that. So to create a new stroke style, I'm going to have my stroke panel open. At this point, I do not need any strokes or any lines or path selected right now because I'm going to predefine them. Then I can apply them at a later time. So in my stroke panel, I am going to click my stroke panel options button up here in the top corner. And I don't have a whole lot of options here, so I'm going to choose Stroke Styles. All right, so my Stroke Styles dialog box opens up. And at this point, I see some styles listed there, but I'm going to go ahead and click New. Now, if I was going to load some, if I've saved some on my hard drive, I would choose Load and navigate to where those would be saved. But I'm going to make my own. So New. And here's my new stroke style dialog box. So at this point, I'm kind of 3 levels in from my stroke panel. So here I choose the type of stroke that I want to create. And like I had said earlier, there are 3 types. We've got striped, dotted, and dashed. We're going to start with dashed. So it's always a great idea to name your stroke. We want to make sure that they are descriptive and that you're able to tell, looking back, I'm just going to say dashed example, but you want them to be descriptive enough that from a list you can identify without, you're not going to be given a really great preview each time. So I have my name, I have my type, and now here's where we start entering in measurements. Now each one is a little bit different. So for dashed, basically I have some options here. I can enter in a measurement for my length, and you can see if I just increase this amount, you can see how it actually is increasing, and this is my ruler that you can navigate through. I'm at a quarter, here's a half. Now the cool thing here also is I can grab this triangle and I can move this around to wherever I want it to be. And while I am doing that, any of these adjustments here, I see the preview, which is really nice. So I can enter in a measurement for my length, or like I said, click anywhere in here to drag that triangle. I can enter another measurement in my pattern. So here, let's do the length here. You can see how that's length. And then if I pattern length, can you see what's changing here? So we're changing the overall pattern so that it applies more in the pattern instance to the intervals at which the dashes occur. Now the cool thing here too is I can actually click anywhere and drag to create a new pattern. Let's take this length down a little bit here. Okay, so now you can see how that's affected. Now if I change this one to a quarter, have this one start at a half, you can see how this is becoming updated on the fly. Now if I decide I don't want this, I can just click and drag it down and it's gone. So drag it, I still haven't lit up on my cursor, so it's still there when I put it back in. I also have a start. which I can enter in, and this can change the length of the dash as well. So let's just do a start at 0.5, and I can press tab to navigate through. We'll do this 0.25, leaving my pattern length at 0.75, and you can see that I have this pattern. So if I choose to save this, I would choose Add. Nothing looks like it happens other than my name gets reset. If I slide this off, you can see here is my example that I just saved. So if I click Done, I am done. Now if I was going to create more, which I am, I could have left that open and just went ahead and created another new one. So let's do another new. This time, let's do dotted. So dotted, I enter in some values. You see it's a little bit different here. I have my pattern length again, which again is increasing my intervals. You can see that more clear, I think, with this one. And then I have my center point here. So if I click in my ruler, I'm able to add more dots, and then I can center. I can choose to specify where the additional dot will be positioned horizontally in relation to the original dot. So right now this one's at 0.1233, and here we're at 0.24. So you can choose, you know, if I want this to be 0.25 instead, so it's a little cleaner. And then this one I maybe want to have 0.25. And I'm just pressing tab. You can see that change. So then again, I can add this, and let's name this one dotted example. And I'll choose Add, slide this to the side, and there it is. Now the last one is a stripe, and this one changes the ruler a bit in that it becomes more vertical than horizontal, and I'm able to enter in a value again, start, to specify where the stripe will be positioned on this vertical axis, and then I enter in a value in the width text box to determine the width from top to bottom of the stripe. And notice that this is in percentages. So if I start this at, say, 25, so that's going to be starting at 25%, and my width is at 25%, so that means that each stripe is 25 to 50, 75 to 100, and you can see that here. So, and again, I can change this around by sliding this if I wanted to make it a little bit more unique. So I have a thicker along with a thin. If I get too small, you're not going to be able to see it here in the preview. You can increase your preview size to allow that weight, that stroke weight, maybe to be a little bit more visible, and this might be certainly a good case to do that. So if I name this one stripe example, and again click Add, and I'm done. I have 3 new examples that I just created. Now if I click OK, what'll happen is in this type, you see these are the 3 that I just did. So now to apply them to a stroke, I'm going to click one of my paths here, and I'm going to choose dashed for my first one. I'll click and I will choose dotted for the second, and for the third, you can see something's happening with that one. We're going to choose the stripe. And for each of these, let's just click them all and increase the stroke weight here to something that's a little bit more visible. So in this one, the gap color actually is set to gold, and that's why we see it look as though there's gold in between. So I can do a none. I can do another color if I wanted to, and it's basically filling that surrounding area. I could do the same thing with this as well, where I put a gap color in. And with the stripe, I'll just show you what that looks like as well. So you can create some really interesting stroke styles that get very artistic and add some interest to your InDesign work.